corporate restructuring isn't something that I ever thought I'd have to worry myself with when I launched Students for Life in 2006 and began organizing young people on college campuses. To me, and probably most people, it kind of sounds like pulling teeth. Kind of is. But a lot has changed in the 18 years since as we've grown up from a small organization with a handful of team members and Students for Life groups across the country to an organization now with more than 1,400 groups that we have the honor to serve and more than $20 million that's entrusted annually to us to grow this generation. Not only that, but those students that we've trained and we brought into the pro-life movement are still, many of them are still fighting alongside us, even though they no longer can classify themselves as a student for life anymore, probably myself included here. Needless to say, the kind of rapid growth we've experienced is never easy. So in order to ensure that we maintain maximum efficacy in our work and that what we're doing, we've decided at Students for Life and Students for Life Action to do something different, to create an umbrella organization, if you will, of all of our entities and programs that we offer. The name of this new entity, drum roll please, Pro-Life Generation. Probably guessed it. As CEO of Pro-Life Generation, I can assure you that nothing will change with what we do every day at Students for Life of America on campuses, serving those who speak up for the most vulnerable in the womb, who change hearts and minds and transform their campus policies. In fact, I pray we grow Students for Life of America rapidly as we just launched a 5-year plan to get Students for Life group at every 4-year college in America. Our work at Students for Life Action will continue of mobilizing this pro-life generation to get to state capitals and get here in Washington, D.C., to hold political leaders' feet to the fire, even if they have an R beside their name, to do the right thing and to stand up for moms and children and protect them from the predatory abortion industry. Our work at the Campaign for Abortion-Free Cities and Standing With You and our Demetree Institute for Pro-Life Advancement will only continue to grow now under this umbrella. I'm so excited. We might even launch a pack or two. I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling later. In short, forming the Pro-Life Generation to serve as this umbrella organization is only going to help us be more effective and actually grow larger as we prepare now for this new era that we've launched in the pro-life movement, which we know will be not a sprint, but a marathon as we work towards abolishing abortion. And I want to make sure, and my job as CEO of Pro-Life Generation is to make sure we're doing all that we can to grow, train, mobilize this generation to engage in our culture, whether it's online, on campuses, in their churches, in their communities, or on Capitol Hill and state capitals to end abortion and be the ones that finally see abortion end in our lifetime. So with that, I'm going to bring on some special guests today, and we're going to talk about all the entities under Pro-Life Generation initiatives, starting first with Students for Life of America. So first up, I'm proud to have our Leadership Initiatives Director, Mary Briganti, here to talk about Students for Life of America and the work we're doing there, and our National Leaders Collective, which is part of Students for Life. So Mary, thanks for coming on today to talk about what our field team does at Students for Life, which really is, I would say, the bread and butter of all of, the ecosystem of the pro-life generation. It all revolves around our campus field team, which is going out, starting groups, training leaders, because from there, that's when we're able to do all of the cool things, whether it's going to state capitol or recruiting students to launch abortion-free cities or changing campus policies or Standing With You. It all comes down to these pro-life students. So I guess tell the viewers, I know it feels silly asking you to tell me something I already know, but tell everyone who's watching, how do we actually train college and high school students to stand for life?
Yeah, absolutely. So our team, we have a team that serves 1,400 student groups across the country. It's so exciting to hear that we're going to be reaching our almost 200,000 students trained in the spring, which is just incredible.
I'm going to try to be there, but we're trying to nail down the actual specific training that's going
Right.
to happen. It's kind of crazy.
It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
But the only way that we're able to do that is with a team of regional coordinators. And, there's one in every region. And I honestly think it's, our biggest resource at Students for Life.
And if you look at our budget, it's our biggest expense too. Send more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Send more money so we can hire more coordinators.
Absolutely. Yeah. They support the students on the ground. They help to recruit, train, and mobilize these students. They're the ones that, meet them on campus. They bring them campus tours. They bring them displays. They give them the resources that they need in order for them to engage with their peers.
Sit with them as they cry after their school has rejected our Students for Life application or their event.
Or helps sue their school.
Or helps them sue holds their hand as they say yes
Absolutely.
to suing their school. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's really interesting because we don't make widgets at Students for Life, right? We're making pro-life leaders. And to do that is you have to have regional coordinators. You got to have the people walking beside them.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of the resources that they bring, that's made by our programs team is just, they're incredible resources that students have already seen tons of amazing conversations with. I know that one of the big things we have is our campus tour. Those go around twice a year. And the one in the fall, What is a Person? We were talking a lot about bringing, the conversation back to personhood and that, the preborn are protected under the 14th Amendment and bringing that conversation back. And I know that display itself had over 9,000 conversations on campus, which was just incredible. And that's only possible through, the help of the regional coordinator and the dedication of the students. So our field team is really, like you said, the bread and butter. They're the ones that go out and really serve the teams and serve the groups on campuses. So
that's awesome. What about the other resources you have? Because you mentioned resources, things we do, but you've taken the helm of one of our resources at Students for Life that sometimes might be the bane of your existence with the technology, but it's been truly transformative in trying to train so many students. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an online training platform called Students for Life HQ, and this is essentially our one-stop shop. This is where you can find everything, and some of those resources that I was talking about, hosting the campus tour, maybe even requesting free tabling displays or flyers or things like that. All of that can actually be requested on Students for Life HQ, and it's right on the homepage. But in addition to that, we have downloadable flyers, we have digital training videos, we have social media graphics. So anyone of any age who needs help with their pro-life activism, there's something there for them to help them, get things started in a way that is really, it'll spark a conversation,
That's right, especially when there can't be a regional coordinator right next to you at the given every step. And there's also tons of video trainings too.
Absolutely.
So just what we're doing on campuses, you can watch all those videos. This was kind of birthed out of a COVID pandemic thing, I feel.
Yeah, and it really took off. I know a lot of our student groups really, they benefit from it and they love going on there just to get any free resources that they can.
So what happens after, if you're a Students for Life leader, if you started a group or maybe you've taken your group to the next level, what's your next step as a Students for Life leader?
Yeah, so, there with all of these 1,400 student groups, there are those leaders that stand out. They're the ones that are, the group presidents, group officers that they want to do what's next. They know that they're called to do something more, do something bigger. And we recommend that they apply for our National Leaders Collective, which is our group of year-long leadership programs that the whole purpose is to really help somebody who's interested in a pro-life career be prepared for it and ready to launch into that after they graduate. So there's 9 different opportunities. We actually grew this back in 2019. We went from 3 programs to 9 programs in only a couple years. And we've just worked with so many incredible students that have launched into the pro-life movement.
It's 175 students almost every year that are in a leadership, cohort or program. Tell me, how many of those do we hire?
That's a really great question. Recently, I think we've actually hired 4 or 5 of the ones in our current class, but on average, I think it was the statistic we last looked at was 25% of our staff is made up of Students for Life alumni who went through one of our programs.
I always get asked all the question, the question of how do I come work for you? I'm like, well, are you involved in Students for Life on your campus, or
are you in a program?
Have you started a Students for Life group? Because that's, I think, kind of your first entry into what we're doing. And I love the statistics because the majority of them, when we were doing kind of surveying these students last year, the majority of them were saying they felt more equipped. They had a deeper relationship in their faith life, and that they were even more likely now to pursue a full-time path in the
Right.
pro-life movement, which is
Yeah.
exactly what we need for
Absolutely.
such a long-term fight that we know we're kind of settling into right now.
Right. It was just astonishing to me to see that, of the people who are graduating from college, 79% of them were actively pursuing a pro-life career after graduation. And we've already seen this year, even some of the students who are currently involved in our program, we've had 23 of them take on active pro-life internships, which is just incredible. And, this year we've had at least 12 already that have been hired on in some capacity, either by Students for Life or someone else,
So rest of pro-life movement, you're welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a huge problem for the pro-life movement, right? Of
Right.
finding trained, passionate people who will dedicate their lives to this cause, and knowing that
Right.
they're going to be underpaid and they're going to face so much obstacles in their life. So I think it's
Right.
it's so critically important we do that. So
Yep.
thanks, Mary, for all that
Yeah.
you do and representing our awesome campus field team that's on campuses today and talking a little
Right.
bit about them. The next initiative I want to talk to you about is Students for Life Action, which we launched in 2019. And a lot of people were asking, well, why would Students for Life get political? Well, first of all, let's just lay this out here. Abortion is not a political issue. It is a human rights issue. However, one of the places we must engage in order to see abortion abolished in our land is in politics. We can't just ignore it forever. I believe we have to change culture and change our politics. And increasingly, we noticed that there was an important role for Students for Life and the pro-life generation, more explicitly, to play in crafting pro-life legislation and to hold legislators' feet to the fire. This generation, as you know, as well as I do, is not tied to one political party. We are not just Team R all the way. We are Team PLG. And that is what we aspire to beat into our elected officials, we will never be satisfied until all abortion is abolished in our land. And we really have stepped up to kind of take that mantle state by state, not only here in Washington, D.C., but state capital by state capital. So I want to bring in Chanel Prunier. She is the Vice President for Political Affairs at Students for Life Action. Chanel, can you start by giving us a brief introduction about what Students for Life Action does and how it's different day to day than Students for Life of America?
Yeah, thanks, Kristan. So Students for Life Action really takes that pro-life generation that Students for Life of America has brung up through campuses and through leadership programs to really engage them in politics, to get them out door knocking in support of legislation, or get them registering voters on their campuses, or to bring them to lobby on Capitol Hill to pass pro-life legislation, or at their own state capitals to organize their fellow students to really engage in public policy and to win elections.
Yeah, it kind of all goes together too, because what you teach at our pro-life political workshops, which is kind of our recruitment and training tool to get students and young people kind of in the door into pro-life politics, is we kind of teach how it all goes together, right? Like we introduce a good, strong pro-life bill that does not have exceptions for children conceived in rape. We do not do that. And, we get a vote, and sometimes we know chances of this being passed are very slim, but we want to push to get a vote to get members on record. And then we go back to their constituents and say, hey, by the way, did you know so-and-so, delegate so-and-so said he was pro-life. He voted against our Life at Conception bill, our Heartbeat Abortion Protection Act, or our Chemical Abortion and Chemical Abortion Act. You need to call your delegate and tell him to get his, act straight. So then we go back to the voters and then exert pressure on those elected officials. And, we've been known to take out some Republicans time to time in the primaries who pledged to be pro-life and weren't. And then we end up going back to a state legislative session like the next year with stronger pro-life majorities, because the representatives who didn't do a good job the previous year paid a price and either not being reelected or, really having to step up the amount of money they put into their election, because then we were kind of being loud and vocal, and then we get pro-life laws passed.
Yeah,
Did I just summarize our whole strategy?
Absolutely, and engaging in the primaries and is at the top of our agenda, and we've seen it be successful, particularly in Wyoming, where we passed the first in the nation chemical abortion prevention bill, and we did it through grassroots organizing and educating voters about how their legislators hadn't voted for the bill during the prior session. And when those voters learned that their legislators hadn't voted in support of ending dangerous chemical abortions, they threw them out of office. And what do you know? They elected and chose people that would support those policies. And the bill passed the next session. And we're doing that state by state. We are engaging in places where voters thought they were choosing pro-life legislators, only to find that they then weren't enacting pro-life policies. And when they learn that those legislators aren't enacting pro-life policies, either by stalling and not voting to advance them, or by not showing up to vote, or by voting them down, by educating those voters and letting them know what their legislators are doing, we are able to end up with better representation, and that better representation then often advances pro-life laws.
Yeah. I mean, what would you say? So Wyoming was a huge success. It was a big battle. And I think for folks to understand, it's like, tens of thousands of dollars, but not hundreds of thousands of dollars,
right,
made a pro-life law and ended chemical abortion in the state of Wyoming. And you can be very gritty and innovative at the state level to see transformative change take place. But what other successes do you have? I know New Hampshire is one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, in Oklahoma, we passed a great pro-life law, SB 612, to end abortion in Oklahoma, using a lot of the same tactics as in Wyoming, and engaging legislators and having constituents contact them. A lot of other states passed life at conception laws in 2022 and 2023 as well. So we're excited about those laws and about ones to come. I think we're excited about the primary season. We're active in 17 different states with our lobby days to kick off the legislative season this year, more than ever before, to push strong pro-life laws. And from the legislative season, we'll move into the primary season, where we educate voters about what happened during the legislative season. And then from the primary season, ideally, we will have a lot of truly pro-life candidates that emerge from the primaries that are then worth supporting in the general election. And it's important to be involved in the general election too. Our research of the pro-life youth vote shows that they are ready to turn out if they have people worth supporting. And we as an organization are uniquely equipped to engage the pro-life youth vote, on their campuses and online, to really move the needle in the general elections, whether it's the U.S. Senate or the presidency in key swing states. We have the Pregnant Students Bill of Rights that has passed the Congress, but it's also got to pass the U.S. Senate, and we need a pro-life president in order to have it become law.
Which is stupid. It's literally just educating pregnant parenting students on campus of their Title IX rights. It should not be this hard. I mean,
it shouldn't be this hard.
Passed the House, our first federally inspired bill that has passed. It's amazing. It was super fun to be at the March for Life and know that was the pro-life bill being passed that day. It was our bill. No one knew about it, but it was our bill. We were so excited about it. But now it's like sitting just in the Senate, and the pro-abortion Democrats don't want women to know their options, which is, they literally said in the committee hearings in the House that the bill was triggering for women who are going to have abortions to learn about their rights.
Crazy.
So, but I mean, you forgot about the New Hampshire success. I want you to talk about that. We defunded Planned Parenthood in New Hampshire, liberal New Hampshire.
And the governor kept trying to bring the funding back. He kept trying to get the Executive Council in New Hampshire to grant contracts to Planned Parenthood, and they kept saying no. And part of the reason they were saying no is that we had people ringing their phones off the hook. We had text messages going into their districts for people to email them. And they kept saying no because they were hearing from pro-life voters in New Hampshire that they don't want funding for Planned Parenthood and organizations that fund abortions. And the governor kept pushing, and people kept pushing back. So it's a
That's
great
awesome.
success.
Yeah, I mean, we were like the only national pro-life group engaged there. We're working with Cornerstone Action, the local family policy group there in New Hampshire does a great job. But you can win in states if you have coordinated action. One last question, I'll let you go. What makes Students for Life Action different politically than other pro-life groups who engage in politics?
Yeah, so I think Students for Life Action has, we're not just Team R. We are Team Pro-Life. And that means if a Republican politician isn't going to vote pro-life, we're going to find somebody who will to replace him. And so when students get involved in our organization, they're drawn to that authenticity. They know that when we ask them to knock on doors and we ask them to send text messages and we ask them to share on social media about why this person deserves their vote more than this other person, it's coming from a place where we care about the babies. We're not there to just protect a Republican majority that isn't going to advance pro-life legislation. We're there to advance pro-life legislation. And so when we decide we are going to engage in a primary and say, look, this person hasn't been doing what they're supposed to for pro-life voters, folks know that they can, trust what we say. We're not just part of, an apparatus of the Republican Party. So.
That's exactly right. And I think that's so important, because I think that's, to be quite honest with you, why Republicans, they'll get the majority, and then because they have this big tent, not everyone agrees on anything, so then nothing gets passed, and the voters get visibly angry because nothing gets done, and then they get kicked out of office because they couldn't get anything done because no one in the whole party agrees. Where what's different when you look at Democratic politics, they demand ideological purity on the issue of abortion, so they get it done fast with frightening speed when it comes to attacking life in the womb. And so we've got to hold Republicans accountable to really living up to the platform of the Republican Party and the promises they make. And so I think Students for Life Action, we don't try to make friends with politicians. We'd like them to be our friends, of course, but I got enough friends. I got four kids I made. I got a husband. I'm good. Plus our team of Students for Life. I'm good with friends, but we need them to know that we're never going to be satisfied until we see an end of legal abortion. We're going to continue to keep coming back for more. So thanks for Chanel for leading this fight, Students for Life Action. And I've got a special guest coming up next. Next, we want to talk about the Demetree Institute for Pro-Life Advancement. I want to first explain to you what the IPA is, and I'm going to bring on a special guest to talk about more recent actions we've taken with IPA. So we founded Institute for Pro-Life Advancement a few years ago, about 2019-ish, to perform research, craft messaging, and then determine innovative action that the pro-life movement in a unified way could go about ending the violence of abortion. We've done studies on youth vote polls. We do that every year, actually 5 years running. Chemical abortion pills, research of Christian schools and their relationship with Planned Parenthood, the proximity of Planned Parenthood to college campuses. And our most important research to date, and the most exhaustive to date really, and how we launched the Institute for Pro-Life Advancement, was research into mushy middle young people, the I don't like abortion but folks that I find so infuriating. First, we did women. It took about 2 years to do a complete quantitative and qualitative exhaustive research project for mushy middle women or movable middle women. And then also we went back and did the men. This work really matters because without it, we in the pro-life movement are left to use the abortion industry's own research and media outlets and just feelings and perceptions in how we determine to talk about the issue or craft messages, especially when you're talking about campaigns. But with IPA now, we have data points that then is freely shared with the entire pro-life movement. In fact, we host an annual stakeholders briefing every September in Washington, D.C., where we share all of our latest research with national and state pro-life organizations and actually invite them to share the research and the insights they've gotten this past year, for example. We've really been spearheading at IPA, we've been spearheading the pro-life movement's response to the proliferation of dangerous chemical abortion pills, which you all know lead to injury, infertility, and death of women who consume them. They are the drug of choice of sex abusers, and now are the leading cause of infant death in our country. So I'm going to bring on Kristan Hawkins. She is the Vice President of Policy and Media at Pro-Life Generation, serving Students for Life, Students for Life Action, Institute for Pro-Life Advancement. So Kristan, first tell us, what has been our innovative response to chemical abortion?
What we have done is taken a look at the actual business model of the pill pushers of the abortion industry. They want to cut their cost by cutting out medical testing. They want to cut their cost by abandoning follow-up care, even just stocking a Rogaine shot to protect a woman's fertility. They want to spend no money, offer no protections, make a quick buck, and really medically negligently abandoning women and frankly, the environment. With chemical abortion pills in the no-test online distribution system is set up by Joe Biden. In particular, this just strips away any protections for women, and it sets up really in a new way dumping of medical waste into our water systems. So first, Students for Life set out to prove and show that the health risks to women were extreme on chemical abortion pills, and there's so much great activity on that and lawsuits on that, including the ADF case right now before the Supreme Court. Right. And that was necessary. Let's start with how the pills impact women. But what Students for Life did was say, what happens next after you take a chemical abortion pill and you go home, because now they send you home, and you're bleeding in your home and passing human remains and tissue, where does it go and what does it do? And what we found in NIH published studies is that, in fact, chemically tainted blood, placenta tissue, and human remains are going into the wastewater system. Mm-hmm. Studies in other countries show that it does have an impact on aquatic life, animal and plant life, which should be understood to be our food supply. Mm-hmm. And so we've got some really innovative legislation which involves red bag medical waste kits. Those are important because, again, we don't bury human remains and medical waste in our backyards. Mm-hmm. Hospitals have to dispose of them properly. Even abortion vendors have to dispose of tissue in a safe way, in accordance with environmental laws in each of the 50 states. So this is saying, look, if you're going to be a pill pusher and you're going to sell these drugs, you need to create a system for dealing with the medical waste that's truly innovative, because right now it's just been flushed away.
That's right.
Then we also started to challenge what they did in regards to ignoring the environment itself. And this is millennials and Gen Z are a very environmentally conscious group. Mm-hmm. And what we have found is more than 9 in 10 don't appreciate the fact that the Biden administration risks their lives, health, and fertility. And more than 9 in 10 really hate the fact that they don't test and ensure that the environment is safe from medical waste dumping. And I mean, I can't imagine anything more hypocritical than the Democratic Party being willing to pollute the environment, their so-called favorite thing, in the name of more abortion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just on Capitol Hill earlier today talking to senators about this and House members. So we've really had kind of an all-hands-on approach when it comes to tackling chemical abortion, of education, of course, on campuses with, the movable middle, those who are most strictly targeted by the abortion industry, educating the pro-life movement about what chemical abortions are. They're not Plan B. They are 100% abortifacient, the dangers to women, legislation getting involved, getting state laws passed and introduced. We had our Wyoming Chemical Abortion Prevention Act passed last year, which was massive.
So exciting.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking activism, getting students out in front of CVS and Rite Aid and Walgreens protesting those corporate decisions. So we're really kind of all hands on deck. And then we get into the legal, which is filing the citizen petitions with the FDA, which will eventually lead to a lawsuit to the FDA for ignoring the Clean Water Act, the Dangerous Species Act. So we really have like this 4-pronged approach to chemical abortion. And it's funny because we don't talk I think enough about it, especially to our supporters. Are like, what are you? That's a lot that you're doing. I'm like, yeah, it's a whole team at the pro-life generation that's just focusing every day on chemical abortion. But before you go, and we go into our next initiative we're going to talk about, I wanted you to talk about our latest study, so our 5th annual Youth Vote and Abortion Poll with YouGov, with the Institute for Pro-Life Advancement. Tell me your top line things that you think everyone needs to know about.
The youth vote is not all in for abortion. Number one, the Biden administration's abortion without limits, no matter up to the point of infanticide, because of the policies that they embrace in rejecting protections for babies born during abortion, less than 1 in 10 support the Democratic Party's positions. Now, you read any newspaper in the country, and you're going to think that 9 in 10 love abortion and love everything Biden is doing, and in fact, it's less than 1 in 10. I think that's very important. Then when you look at limits for abortion, more than 6 in 10 want limits on abortion. 3 out of 4 think there should not be abortion past the point of infanticide, and more than half, 54%, think that human rights begin in the womb.
That's massive.
That's a lot of people saying that it's not a blob of tissue in the uterus. Now, we know that. You and I have both given birth to 4 children. You know, we know this personally. And I think most people know this. But what you would get the impression in reading media reports is that the young voter doesn't. And in fact, they do. So point by point, what we have done in our polling is looked at the agenda that we're working on. And it's not a push poll. We went with YouGov, an outside organization, very unbiased, to say, what do people really think? And they don't like what the extremists in the Democratic Party are selling. It's really important for people, I think, just to be encouraged by that and to recognize that there's a strong, I'm going to start that again. And to recognize that there's a strong plurality among young voters in support of way less abortion, way more protections. And frankly, the GOP needs to be strong in being specific and courageous in talking to these people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I was so excited to see the results of this poll because I think, we hear the media narrative day in and day out that we're on the losing side of this issue, that especially in light of Ohio and Kentucky and Michigan and Kansas, that, it's all stacked against us. But then when you actually ask the issues, you see that the majority is not with the Democratic National Committee's platform and the Biden administration's extreme agenda.
That's right.
They're in between. And what we're seeing is they have to choose one extreme or the other, and they're choosing wrong. And so it's really a call for us to wake up in how we're communicating to them, which is what makes Institute for Pro-Life Advancement so important, is that we're doing that hard work, that unsexy work of the research to try to get to have more productive conversations. So thank you, Christy, for all you're doing with our Institute for Pro-Life Advancement at the Pro-Life Gen. And we're going to come back in the next segment and talk about another initiative of Pro-Life Gen. Now, my last guest today is Michelle Hendrickson, the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Pro-Life Generation, who's going to be discussing our campaign for abortion-free cities as well as Standing With You and how these two initiatives actually work together on the ground. So congrats, Michelle. You get to take all of Kristan's crazy ideas and make them into a reality that actually works.
It's fun. It's organized chaos.
It is. It takes a special person to say yes to that.
Yeah.
So I want to start first with the campaign for abortion-free cities. It's near and dear to my heart. It's my little baby, and I know it's your baby now.
It's growing up.
You've adopted it and it's taken on. I'm like the birth mom of abortion-free cities.
Just watching it grow.
And you're the adoptive mom, yes. I get updates from afar. But I want you to talk a little bit about the campaign, the importance of the campaign, and really what it's doing practically in cities to end the violence of abortion. I think for me, I looked around and I saw, when we think about a post-Roe landscape and getting this pro-life generation not only in colleges and high schools involved, but then what do they do after, and how do we keep alumni engaged, and how do we keep the entire pro-life movement engaged and growing while we have legislative fights here in Washington, D.C., or state capitals? There's a lot we can do on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. So this good work keeps going after college. They've graduated and now are in their communities, in their cities, taking back their towns and the campaign, it's in the name. We want our cities to be abortion free. How do we do that? What are the practical ways that we do that? And so we equip these leaders to build the coalition of like-minded people within their community to reach out to churches and partner with them and pregnancy help centers, and then really go out and start telling the pro-life story, start telling the message of where you can get life-saving resources at your local pregnancy help center. That's really the foundation of the campaign.
It's kind of simple. Like,
you can't
just tell people.
Yep. Share about resources, go meet your neighbors, go start a conversation. Really everything that we teach them on college campuses, now it's out in your city. And that's the foundation. You can't expect your city to be abortion free if nobody knows where the pregnancy help center is. They don't know where the good help is. So first year of the campaign, we learned that 73% of neighbors had no idea where their pregnancy help center was. I went door knocking one time, and I was in a neighborhood where I could point to the building. And I was telling that, like, do you know what that building does right there? Do you know what they do? No, I guess I never noticed it. They didn't know. And so with our door hangers that we make and all the materials that we make, and we train our volunteers for a script to go through that we know helps to move the middle and change minds, and we do all of that wonderful stuff. The next year, we proved that we can actually change culture in a city. And so we retested cities that we have been in and saw an increase of at least 10% or more in some cities, that they increased their awareness of a pregnancy help center. So we know that leaders all across the country are making a difference with this campaign. And really, the last thing I'll share is it is of the utmost importance as we're heading into these next election cycles, as we see the abortion industry pushing for pro-abortion ballot referendums. That's what we're in the midst of now. How much more important is it to get out to your neighbor and warn them, educate them on the reality of these ballot referendums putting abortion through all 9 months in their constitution? And guess what? Neighbors don't like that.
Yep.
As soon as you let them know, did you know this ballot referendum is abortion through all 9 months? They're shocked. They hate that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so simple. Like, the idea is just going out to our neighbors, telling them all that the pro-life movement does, and then we'll change the culture of city. And it's that John Maxwell adage of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. And we find that on campuses, and you were a regional coordinator for a number of years at Students for Life. You saw that. Until people knew how much the pro-life movement cared about them, they weren't going to listen to anything we had to say about the violence of abortion. They wanted to know first that we were people, and that we loved women and we loved other people before they wanted to hear us.
And what I love is that the campaign demonstrates it and shows it. It's not just claiming something, it backs it up.
Yep.
All summer long, we did this summer of service where we wagoned around physical resources to our neighbors. So we filled a wagon with diapers and wipes and formula, and we just knock, knock, knock. Hey, we just want to let you know, did you need anything? And all these families were just so shocked. What, for free right now? Yeah, right now. And if we didn't have something that they needed, it was, oh, I need a size 4 diaper. Okay, we'll go to the store. And it was just such a blessing to these families. And in that moment, we reimagined what a pro-life person was for them.
That's right, because you literally showed up to their door and was like, hi, I'm a representative for the entire pro-life movement.
Yep.
You know, what I was talking about in the last segment with Christy at our Institute for Pro-Life Advancement, and I kind of just touched upon our first, study at IPA, which you're very well acquainted. You were helping us draft all those questions of the movable middle women. The thing that we learned in that study, so striking, was that she has a very bad view of who pro-life is. Yep. And it's usually goes back well into childhood, that negative connotation she has with pro-life. And so we're now showing up at their door and going, hey, I'm here to serve you and help you. And by the way, I'm the representative for the pro-life movement.
Yep, exactly.
I love it. And we use campaign technologies. You have a really cool app.
Get fancy data.
Doors. Yeah, fancy data. Yep. It's so cool. Do you have to be a student to be involved in abortion-free cities?
You can, but no. It's for everybody. And like you said in the beginning, it really is this campaign that bridges the next step for that pro-life graduate, the alumni. We've made all these great leaders for so long, and then they graduate, and this is giving them something to do to plug in. So any advocate, any pro-lifer still in school, or it's been a minute since you've been in school, there's a place for you.
That's right. I mean, I think that's, for me, when I look at the pro-life movement and where we're going in the pro-life movement, and we know this is going to be a long fight until we see all abortion abolished in our nation. We know we have to have strong community pro-life grassroots efforts. And I think that was one of the reasons you and I kind of got together with Abortion Free Cities, was because we knew that, the county right to life model was kind of waning. I was involved in the county right to life group. Yeah. You were, my mom was, and all of those like heroes of the pro-life movement have passed on. And so it's, while we're waiting for the next piece of legislation or the constitutional amendment of having 37 state legislatures, we got to be building and growing these community efforts and keeping more activists and encouraging more activists to come into the fold.
And that legislation only model for a local group, it doesn't work, especially in states like mine that are about to pass a ballot referendum. And then what legislation do you have left? So it really is a culture work, a culture game. And this campaign equips people to change their culture, which we should have been doing in the first place. And maybe some of our states wouldn't be in these ballot referendum positions if we had done all of this grassroots work in the first place.
Absolutely. So before I go into Standing With You, how can folks learn more about Abortion Free Cities, even if they just want to get their church involved? Like, where do they go?
I love this as a mission for the church, too, to get out there. So if you just go to abortionfreecities.org, click around on the website, abortionfreecities.org/start, gets you right to the place where you can sign up and start a campaign.
That's awesome. Love it. We made it super simple for you.
We did.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk a little bit about Standing With You. Because Standing With You as an initiative of Pro-Life Generation was founded years before the campaign for abortion-free cities. I know the reason we launched it, I think it was before you even came onto the team. The idea was, this was the number one thing like pro-life students were asking, how can I do more to serve pregnant parenting students on my campus so they choose life, to change the culture on campus so no woman feels like she has to choose between her child and her education. And then we thought, man, this is also an awesome opportunity to train pro-life students in how to seek transformational change on their campus and have a campaign goal. But now it's evolved to be so much more. So tell us what Standing With You does.
It is. It's so many things. And one of my favorite pieces of Standing With You that has evolved is when you go online now to standingwithyou.org, it is first and foremost this database of resources. So we compiled entries from our students all across the country have turned in their resources. And now we have over 4,000 resources within this directory. So if you are a woman in an unplanned pregnancy situation, you just need some support even as a parent, you put in your zip code and it's going to ping something in your local area. And we have everything beyond even just pregnancy help centers. We found maternity homes, domestic abuse shelters, food pantries, whatever that need is. There are over 10 categories for her to find. And then we equip our groups to go out and use this. So they've got different events that they can host and displays on campus.
They're
and flyering
promoting
campaigns.
this
Exactly.
website. Okay.
And then that's what you use at the door for the campaign as well. For the campaign for abortion-free cities, they're pointing people to the resource database. It all works together. It's amazing.
Kristan's Madness comes together.
It all works. Okay.
I love Standing With You because it's that resource, like, especially when you're just starting out as a Students for Life group or a grassroots group, and they're like, what do I do? I'm like, we have yard signs that say, need help, pregnant, standingwithyou.org. Do a yard sign campaign, do a bumper sticker campaign, because, right there on that site, you've got all the resources. If you're like me, don't like to talk to people on the phone, or if you like to talk to people on the phone, you can call, we have the phone number for Heartbeats option line. There's a live chat. There's a live chat now. So it's, we really try to bring together the whole pro-life movement and work together. And what I really love is we have the whole student rights, the Bill of Rights for pregnant parenting students. We're Students for Life. We want those groups to get these Bill of Rights into their student handbooks to remind students on campus that they have actual rights if they do become pregnant or are parenting. So there's a lot of stuff for pro-life student groups to do at Standing With You beyond just being the marketing mouthpiece for this resource.
Yeah, there are some leveled up projects. Once they get their feet wet in just spreading awareness of their local resources, there are a lot of next steps. So some groups are making what we call campus resource guides. So they're compiling all the resources on campus that are available to students and in their community, and we help them compile it into a little resource guide. It's a physical piece of paper that they, like a brochure that they have at their displays. We help them post it online so that it's easy to find from their campus website. And then if there are not enough good policies, we help our students help actually change the policy. So if their school is missing a policy like you're allowed to send your child to the same daycare, because a lot of schools will offer daycare for administration to take their kids to. but not necessarily the students. And so we help pass that policy or adjust that. Lactation rooms, diaper decks, just making the campus a more welcoming place.
Pregnant people parking.
Yeah, but it's just, hey, I'll take it. Just get the parking space. Yeah. So yeah, we help with maternity parking and to make those resources just available.
Did you hear that, pro-choice world, what the pro-lifers are doing?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a Planned Parenthood group doing this on campus?
Nope, they just get women in the doors for the abortion.
Yeah.
That's their business.
It's so frustrating when you hear that.
Yeah.
You don't care about mothers or babies. I'm like, no, that's actually like what we do. It's standing with you. Let me tell you all that we do. What else can students do, and just young people in general, who want to become more equipped to serve women, who are experiencing a crisis pregnancy? How can they see the symbiotic relationship there between campaign for abortion-free cities and standing with you? What more can they do to kind of see those two forces work together? Yeah,
well, I would say please sign up to start a campaign. And then that's usually the first thing we have you go out and do is talk about all the resources that there are available on Students for Standing With You's website as well. So standingwithyou.org, there's a place for students to go. There's a My Campus where they can go find all of their resources to use on campus, or a student advocate little button, and they let us know if they want to change a campus policy. There's so many ways to dive into the thing that you're specifically excited about.
I love this. I love it so much. I'm so glad we do this work.
Yeah.
And that you've taken on the leadership mantle and kind of continuing this work with the pro-life generation. So
it's an honor.
Thank you so much. And hopefully this helped everyone who is watching today understand a little bit about what the pro-life generation does, how each initiative functions, and how we actually work together to offer this comprehensive battle plan against the abortion industry. So please make sure you share this episode with your pro-life friends and on your social media channels. And if you're interested and involved in the pro-life generation, just go to prolifegen.org, prolifegen.org, and right there you will be plugged immediately in by the niche, by the resource, by the initiative that you're most excited about.